Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky. And this week we're back for another episode of Joe on Joe Illustrated. And we're covering G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, issue 88, the debut of the Python Patrol. And that's not the only first appearance. It's also the debut of, I would say, fan favorite, Darklon. Someone with, like a low-rent Destro with one of the most awkward face masks in all of Cobra. Darklon makes his big debut this issue as well. So it's a pretty good issue. And we're also going to have a follow-up to the... what's this? So this came out in 89. So the 32-year saga of the Lone Wolf. That's right, guys. The Lone Wolf drama in the letters pages never, ever is going to end. I'm excited to get into it. Before we do, I want everyone on social media to go out there, and I want you to follow me at Joe on Joe Pod. That's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I want you to send me an email at joeonjoepod to joeonjoepod at gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show. Let me know if you're a fan, if you're a hater, if you're a lover, if you're a fighter, if want to be a guest on the show, give me a ping. And we'll do it. I need to actually start getting back to doing some interview ones. I'm starting to amass a small list of people where I'm like, I need to get you on, and I do. I really want to get them on. Speaking of that, met an interesting person associated with the creation of the first G.I. Joe movie over the weekend. I will save names for now. Hopefully that person will choose to be on the show. And the biggest revelation, spoiler alert, in the original movie, the studio at one point in time wanted Cobra Commander to be a robot. That was shocking news. A robot, everybody. A robot. So, I know what we're going to do. We're going to hear from our wonderful sponsor, the Movies and a Meal podcast. Listeners, I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts. And you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie. It's about not two movies. It's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben, and each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. It's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Pensarga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out 1 episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show. I hope everyone within earshot is giving them a listen and giving them love, because they really do a great job over there. And they're covering it all, and I'm sure they're going to get to Snake Eyes as soon as they can, as soon as the movie drops. I'm getting really excited for that movie. I think it's going to be really great.
You were saying?
What's that? Stalker? You're saying it's time to check out what books and comics and other sundried items were on the rack the same month as G.I. Joe number 88? It certainly is. So we're going to start over at Marvel Comics with our You Were Saying segment. In Marvel Comics, in July of 1989. Now, this is the takeoff date. It's actually dropped in March of 89. But we've got a whole lot of good stuff coming out from Marvel. Spider-Man is dealing with the second part of his second Venom encounter. And that's that Todd McFarlane cover where Spidey's all wrapped up in the symbiotic goo. The Avengers are fighting the Lava Men. That was a retro villain. In Avengers 305, the other one was Spider-Man 317. Avengers 305, the Avengers are fighting the Lava Men. And if I recall, this is when the Avengers, they moved their headquarters from Avengers Mansion to like Avengers Island, which was like a floating island off the coast of New York. And I believe the Lava Men kind of attacked that island, if memory serves. It's been a little bit since I've read it. Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, number 5. Is Doc rocking that eye patch in this one? Yes, he is. Doctor Strange, I don't know. I've never really been able to get into his stuff, which is crazy because I'm about to make a big recommendation. Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom, Triumph and Torment, number 1. This is an actual graphic novel, and it's Mike Mignola on the pencils and artwork. And who wrote this again? Oh yeah, Tom DeFalco wrote this. And this dealt with Strange helping Doctor Doom go to hell to square off against Mephisto in order to rescue Doctor Doom's mother from Mephisto's clutches, or the devil's clutches. It's groundbreaking. It's a really great book, and Mignola's art is great. It's wonderful. They have reprinted it multiple times, so it should be pretty easy to get a hold of if you can't get this OGN. But it's really, really good. And it's stuff like that I dig. But the regular, everyday Doctor Strange stuff, for some reason, eludes me. Doctor Strange, like Man-Thing and Swamp-Thing. Swamp creatures elude me. And regular magic users elude me. I don't know, maybe if it's like seemingly too easy for him, or I'm not sure. Here's a favorite. Fred Hembeck destroys the Marvel Universe. If you're not familiar with Fred Hembeck, he was a cartoonist, satirist that worked. I think he's still with us. I think he's still doing stuff here and there. In fact, I'm fairly positive he is. But he's worked like in the fringes of comic books. He's done comics, but they're about comics. They're satirists. They're like cartoons about comics. They're they're funny books. And he's got a very distinctive style. And he's done the Marvel Roast. He did this one, Destroys the Marvel Universe. He's done some DC stuff. He used to do letter page stuff. His style is the kind of style that you see it and you know it. You absolutely remember it. His name, Fred Hembeck, too, is pretty memorable just because it sounds like might be his real name. I'm assuming it is. But it sounds like the kind of name like Stan Lee would make up. And he just always satirized the various universes and just poked at them and took the piss out of them, so to speak. So this month, Fred Hembeck destroyed the Marvel Universe in a one shot. Of course, we've got G.I. Joe number 88, Special Missions over on issue 23. Let's see. Oh, there's also a run in Marvel Tales where they're reprinting Spider-Man classics, and this is the death of Captain Stacy, but they brought on Todd McFarlane to do covers for these books. So while Marvel Tales as a whole, the majority of the run, not like the very, very first issues, but the majority of the run's really never really worth more than a couple bucks a piece, just because they're reprints of old Spider-Man stories and, delves into like Marvel Team Up, and it wasn't just Amazing Spider-Man reprints. But this run where McFarlane did the covers, they've picked up a little steam because they have McFarlane covers. So, they sell for, $8-10, something like that. You could probably find them for a little less. You could probably find them for a little more. But if you're ever going through a collection and you're looking at some stuff and it says, it's Marvel Tales, and your brain goes, skip over it just because, they're reprints and they're not valid. Look for the McFarlane issues and snap those up. Absolutely grab them. I've absolutely flipped a few on eBay here and there, just to, and they just go for a little more just because of that McFarlane cover, which is understandable, I guess. Speaking of Spider-Man, he guest stars in Sensational She-Hulk number 3 as the cover says, the obligatory guest star. And I always enjoy seeing John Byrne draw Spider-Man, and then I read chapter 1 and I was like, I don't really think I want to see that anymore. But I do like a Byrne Spider-Man, and he really was firing on all cylinders for the She-Hulk Spider-Man crossover. The other one that came out this month, let me see why am I not seeing it here? Maybe it dropped last month. But Nth Man was supposed to be dropping. I'm going to real quick click forward and check out. Maybe they have it listed. Maybe it actually technically dropped next month. Because that's a Larry Hama book. And yeah. It actually just, so reason I say I thought it dropped is in the book we're reviewing today, the G.I. Joe 88, it talks about this month, Larry's book, Nth Man. but it actually dropped with an August 88, August 89 cover date. So we'll talk about that next issue, next time on Joe Illustrated. We'll talk about Nth Man, you Larry Hama heads out there. Transformers, they're up to issue 54. The X-Men are fighting the Sentinels in 246. And, and this is a great one. What If Volume 2, issue number 1 debuted. And this would be the second ongoing What If series. And this ran like 106 issues, something around there. 110 or so. It stuck around. One of the final issues was the introduction of Spider-Girl. I know that was like 105, and I think there were just a handful of issues after that. They did some good stuff in this. They retread some ground, and some was better than others, but they did some cool stuff. They've been eventually introduced like the first like ongoing Watcher subplot in What If, where he actually had a story, and within the pages of that story, he was traveling from or viewing universe to universe to tell a different What If story, but it was trying to resolve some conflict he had. But I liked What If quite a bit. I know they're doing them now as kind of like one shots instead of a series, which is tough because then you end up missing some because it's not like on your regular pull radar. So, and I know they've got the cartoon that's coming up. That's going to be very exciting. So that's it for Marvel Comics.
You were saying?
Now we're going to look over at DC. Same month as G.I. Joe number 88. You were also looking at Action Comics number 643. This is a beautiful cover by George Perez, and it is the return of Superman to Action Comics after being on a weekly, I guess, hiatus, but it shifted to Action Comics weekly for like 6 months, and that experiment failed. And so now they brought back, they went back to monthly and having Superman be the feature in it. They went back to the like a stylized version of like the original old school Action logo, which is gorgeous, I think. And then anytime you're getting George Perez artwork is just fabulous. And we can't go talk about Superman right now, today, on July 6th, without talking about the passing of Richard Donner, who absolutely created so many of our childhood dreams and fantasies in Superman, the Goonies, for you more adult fare, certainly Lethal Weapons of the world, and The Omen and all that stuff. Like, obviously multifaceted, multi-talented director and creator, but specifically his stuff on Superman, I just need to recognize publicly for this young listener. It was a seminal thing for me. It was his version of Superman was my version of Superman. For the longest time, I wasn't reading the comics, when I was a little kid. It was just the live action Superman, and I must have watched Superman the movie a million times. To this day, when people say like, "Well, what's your favorite Marvel movie or what's your favorite superhero movie?" My answer always goes back, 44 years, 43 years, and like, Superman the movie is still the best, the greatest superhero movie that's ever been made. And I do stand by that. I think it's got everything that you need. Certainly, you could always say, oh, that's got better action or better this or better that, but nothing balances everything better than Superman the movie. And that's all, Richard Donner and, Mankiewicz and, Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder and, everyone's contributions to the whole, but, you give credit to the quarterback. And the quarterback was Richard Donner. His famous quote about that movie was verisimilitude, where, the tagline was, you will believe a man can fly, but you also would believe that a man could hide as Clark Kent. He made you believe that Superman could fall in love with Lois Lane. He made you believe that Lex Luthor could be a threat to Superman. He did all of this, and he did all of this in the late 70s, where special effects were not what they are today. Like he certainly had great special effects, and they did a wonderful job with the green screening and all the flying rigs and everything like that. And they absolutely did a groundbreaking job on that. But he didn't have that crutch of saying, just do it digitally or do it in the computer or whatever. They had to work around making these optical illusions work for you, and the actors had to sell it. They had to sell it for you, that this meek Clark Kent would really convince people that he wasn't Superman, etc. and stuff. So, my hat is off to Richard Donner. I've always enjoyed his stuff. He had left a huge legacy. Obviously, he was a producer on the X-Men movies. One of his proteges was Jeff Johns, which has had a huge impact over at DC Comics. Like he's the Donner, and then Lauren Schuler Donner. Like the Donner legacy is going to continue for a long time in Hollywood, and I think it's well earned. Just because, and the bones. Just the bones of Superman are just so perfect. I rewatched it yesterday when we heard the news. I threw on Superman 1 and 2, and I know Superman 2, Richard Lester and all that stuff, but it's still an absolute favorite of mine. And they're just so perfect. There's just everything great about them. I mean, the fact that he had a little girl get slapped by her mother when she told her that she saw a man fly out of the tree and rescue her cat. Like, He could have just had the girl go in the house, and then they're like, no, let's have her tell her mom what's up. And then you could have had the mom be like, don't lie to me, Susie. No, they have the mom slap the little girl. And that's just a level of awareness and comedy and storytelling that, like, again, verisimilitude, a kid comes in, is like, there's a flying man outside, Mom. Don't lie to me, kid. Like that kind of verisimilitude. Like it was just happening in the real world. So, hats off to Richard Donner. God bless him. And hats off to Superman. Just the absolute champion. He's always going to be one of my favorites. So, thank you for listening to this little diatribe. Also on the stands this month. Here's a favorite: Justice League 28, and the reason it's a favorite is it's Guy Gardner takes Ice on a date, and he ends up taking her to an adult film house, and this issue alone just set up years and years and years of character gags and references, and just set in concrete who they were, and it showed how Ice could see the best in Guy, and how Guy was just so Guy and just so stupid as to think like what was a societal norm and all that stuff. And it's a really, really, really great issue. Obviously dealing with risque stuff, but it's just so funny, and it just lands. It really, really lands. Speaking of Superman, here's another big one. Lex Luthor, the unauthorized biography. And this is the life story of Luthor, and the cover emulates that crappy the Trump the big Trump book in the 80s that he ghost wrote there, that he had someone ghost write and took all the credit for business decisions that all they did was bankrupt a casino. The Art of the Deal, that's the book. So the cover looks just like the Art of the Deal, and how fitting to have Luthor on the same cover as in the same cover pose as Trump. Legion 62 is the start of the Magic Wars, and we are very close to the 5 year later. This is issue number 3 of the Magic Wars. I believe 63 is the final issue of the series, and then I think there's a month hiatus. Then we get into for my money, the greatest era of Legion, at least in modern times. My personal favorite. So we're going to talk more about that. But yeah, the Magic Wars, and this is where Magic was. It was kind of taken over the galaxy, and then eventually it gets wiped out. But then there's a huge, it's not an EMP pulse, but this basic surge that sets technology back. Just turns off technology across the galaxy, and you see the ramifications of that in the 5 year later Legion. So that's on its way. What else? And that's about it. That's about it for DC Comics.
You were saying?
And now over at the movie theater. It's a big month. And I just talked a ton about Superman. So we're going to kind of fly through this here. But March 3rd, 1989, Dream a Little Dream with the Coreys and Meredith Salinger, Mrs. Patton Oswalt these days. Very fun movie. I haven't revisited this in quite a while, but this is one of those big Corey movies. I mean, you talk about the Coreys, the Feldman and Hames of the world. This was absolutely one of the big ones. This one, License to Drive, and I think there was a third one I'm not thinking of. But Dream a Little Dream was huge. Lean on Me, huge movie with Morgan Freeman. This was, teaching the kids how to, teaching the kids in school and making sure the kids learn, which is great. And, movies like that they always hit the same notes, but they're always inspirational. I feel like every 4 years, we get a new one like that. And, they always end up being fun, assuming they're well made. On March 10th, The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. I've never been able to get into this. I've seen it. It's a Terry Gilliam movie, so it's got that weirdness, that not Space Pirates. What was it? The time traveler movie. It's got that oddball vibe, which stems from the Monty Python stuff. Time Bandits. That's the other movie I'm thinking of. And I was a big Time Bandits fan though as a kid. I loved Time Bandits. I thought it was just weird and awesome. And then I remember trying to watch Baron Munchausen when I was really young, and man, I didn't get it. Not only it was meant, I really don't think I was meant to get it, but it had Robin Williams in it. So I was like, oh, I love Robin Williams. It never got it. I watched it as an adult and I thought it was okay. I didn't really fall in love with it. March 12th, we've got Police Academy 6. City Under Siege. You got to be kidding me. This says it's directed by a guy named Peter Boners. And it seems to be a legit name and a legit link. The director of Police Academy 6, his name is Boners. That's fabulous. That's absolutely fabulous. We also had a movie with Robert De Niro and Ed Harris, a thriller called Jackknife. And Chances Are with Sybil Shepherd, Robert Downey Jr., where... wasn't it like someone comes in that one where someone comes back to life, like reincarnated kind of a thing? Something like that. On the 17th, Fletch Lives. We also have the movie Leviathan, the underwater adventure Leviathan, starring Peter Weller, RoboCop himself. That's not a bad flick. It is a big... I think I did watch this one relatively recently, and I really think this is like a shot-for-shot remake of Alien. If I'm remembering, it's a rip of something else. It really is, but it's good though. They do a good job with it. But like, I remember watching it going like, I think it was just straight Aliens, and I'm like, or Alien, the first one. It's like, man, this is really just Alien. Like they just took the Alien and rewrote it, called Leviathan. And let's see, Alien. You can even spell Alien in the word Leviathan, and I'm not kidding. On the 24th, 976 Evil with Robert Englund directing it. What? Freddie directed 976 Evil. I've never seen that one. He doesn't star in it. It says he directed. I bet you cameos in it at some point. I've never seen it. Don't know what that's about. Something to do with the telephone call though. Troop Beverly Hills with Shelley Long and Craig T. Nelson. I do remember seeing this one. I do remember this being just one of those charming, stupid comedies. And finally, on the 30th, March 30th, I think, or 31st, sorry. I do think the most important movie of this month, and I mean this, Heathers. Heathers came out. Wow, what a movie. Prescient, applicable to modern day. If you haven't revisited Heathers in a long time, do it. It is amazing. It's wonderful. It deserves every accolade you can throw on it. And it's unfortunately it's still timely, and it's never really gone out of style. Heathers is absolutely fabulous. That's a huge movie. So that's on March 31st, and that's it for...
You were saying?
Now, we're going to dig into G.I. Joe number 88.
Now, mass is ready.
G.I. Joe versus the Python Patrol, cover by Tony Salmons, and it is it's got an all black background with some nice minimal renderings of our main characters here. We've got Lady J, Flint, Scarlet, and Snake Eyes squared off against Lady J squaring off against Dr. Mindbender. And then Flint, they've got facing off against Darklon. And then Scarlet squaring off against Cobra Commander. They're just face-to-face, kind of a square-off thing. You guys have seen this cover. And Snake Eyes seeing Destro face-to-face. Of course, you put those two up front because they're the most recognizable. They're going to sell your books. Cobra Commander's in his metal mask, so that's not going to be as recognizable. The Darklon thing, I think it's just there's a coloring error here. They're using like flesh. It looks like Mindbender's flesh leaked into the Darklon face mask, and I could see why you would how a colorist could make that mistake, because his face mask is so strange, and like they actually gave him lips on it, which does he have lips? Let me just real quick. No, he doesn't really have lips in it. He's got like a Darklon's face mask is, and you know, listen, Darklon's face mask is just straight up weird. Like it is one of the oddest shaped and hardest to draw things I can absolutely imagine. So yeah, so there's just some issues on that with Darklon. It looks like he's got lips and a nose and anything going on, but it's a fun comic. It's a fun cover and distinctive cover. There's not a lot of G.I. Joe covers that are really set up like this. And the focus is Python Patrol. Remember, you're selling toys, and they're about to have a whole line of Pythonized toys come out, and so you want to put that front and center. So let's get that logo out there. I mean that makes total sense to me.
Yo, Joe!
Python Patrol. That's the name. That is the name of the book. Script by Larry Hama. Tony Salmons pencils. Randy Umberland inks. Bob Sharon colors. Rick Parker lettering. Bobby Chase editor. Tom DeFalco editor-in-chief. And we start with a bitchin' Camaro crossing the border. It's the custom station at the border between Wolcott. Yeah, I'm not pronouncing that, but you guys remember it. Wolcott. Let me see if I can get this right one time. Wolcott Cuckland. Wolcott. I think that's right. Maybe if you say it faster. Wolcott Cuckland and Darklonia. Darklonia, the home of Darklon. And this Camaro, which we don't know who is inside, but there is a familiar looking blonde with a very flat looking face, staring straight ahead with sunglasses on. So we might get a hint of who's in the car. They're in a sweet Camaro, bright red Camaro, and they're playing the role of obnoxious American. And behind them are all kinds of, military. They actually look like maulers, and there's another Joe vehicle behind it, but I'm not sure exactly what that is. But they look like they're drawn to be maulers, and I believe they are supposed to be maulers, because this whole issue is about arms dealing.
Yo, Joe!
Oh, and before we flip to that other page, I feel like we haven't talked about this yet, or maybe I have, but in the inside cover is a classic advertisement, and you comic readers know what I'm talking about. I've seen this ad so many times in so many comics of the era. It's from Metal Gear, the very original Metal Gear. Man, what a great franchise. And I still have my copy of the OG Metal Gear, and it was just eye-opening, man. So it's that advertisement where it lists all the things your guy can use in the game. And, remote control, missile, gas mask, plastic explosives, grenade launcher, rocket launcher, Beretta, a flashlight, a compass, iron glove, binoculars, body armor. Like, it's got all this great stuff. It's funny, they don't list a cardboard box or cigarettes. I wish they had that on here. But this ad I've seen a jillion times. You guys know the one I'm talking about. And this was the first Metal Gear, man. Metal Gear has been just a huge franchise. Went on to make a ton of money, ton of games, a ton of really good games too. So we back to this American Yahoo. He's screaming at this soldier, and I don't know if this. It's a Wolcott soldier. And the guy's trying to get through the border, and this soldier basically tells him no. So we get a little reverse vroom as he drives off. So what we know is whoever is in this Camaro, they're trying to cross the border into Darklonia, and they can't do it via normal means. And as they drive away, they get called tourists by a dude sitting in an Ostriker who is decidedly not a G.I. Joe guy. And right next to him is a in what are the Joes in? Joes are in the they're in the, where is it? What is that called? Yeah, the Desert Fox, right? That's what they're in? Yeah. The Joes are riding in a Desert Fox this whole time. Most of the time. And this panel and this, as I read through this, I realized, oh, what this is. And this issue is an out with the old and with the new issue. So it's as if, as the toy lines are refreshing, it's like Larry's got to get rid of the surplus stuff, like the Ostrikers, like the Maulers, like the Conquest X30s, you know, and whether he's making a statement on it or not, I can't tell you that, but that's what's happening here, in the sense of, you see all this as the pages go on, you see all these like aftermarket G.I. Joe vehicles being used in places, and it's because the toys have new vehicles, and so the Joes have new vehicles, etc., and so on and so forth. It's great. So we find out that and it's Hawk and Roadblock and Skidmark, and the Waklalands, we'll just go Waklalands. They're doing maneuvers very close to the border. And they say they want Darklon to see their new toys, which are G.I. Joe vehicles. He tried to flog surplus Cobra hardware on us. You know, what the nerve, you know? And these guys are just, you know, kind of comical dopes, right?
Yo, Joe!
Meanwhile, in Darklonia, there's basically an arms convention going on. And Darklon is here, and he says, why should I take Destro's advice? Because, Destro, you told me to buy up all this surplus Cobra merchandise, and now he's stuck with it. So he's even stuck with the old stuff. He's got old Asps, old Stingers. He's got a Conquest X30 on the floor, and all this stuff is on sale. And this is all very reminiscent of what's happening in the toy aisles at the time, right? As new, as new product comes on the floor, they got to clear out, make room for the old stuff. Or for the new stuff, rather.
Yo, Joe!
And we get Darklon asking Destro about, like, I thought you and Cobra were on the outs. And we get a little brief recap that basically, after the events of last issue, Destro's in a much stronger position here. And they're all ready to do business. And in this group is Mindbender and Cobra Commander, Fred Mander, rather, and the Baroness. And Mindbender brings to the table the Pythonization process. He says, how about he doesn't say it yet, but he says, how about an upgrade program that would make these babies invisible to radar and infrared? Now, if you guys were longtime listeners, you know that we covered this on the cartoon when they introduced the Pythonizing. That was the first miniseries on the DIC era, as much as we may or may not want to forget that era. This is a different take on it, obviously. This is a different iteration of what it does, but it essentially is doing... Now, the Python... Oh, man, my brain's having a cramp here. I think the Pythonizing in the cartoon made them kind of indestructible, right? No. It just made them invisible to radar, and that's what we're doing here, too.
Yo, Joe!
So now we catch up on those people in the Camaro. For me, as soon as I saw them all out of the Camaro, that's when I went, oh yeah, that's Scarlet, Snake Eyes, Jink, or Lady J and Flint. And that's totally who it is. And they're still playing. They're at a local diner, the local restaurant, and they're making American asses of themselves and talking about how they want to smuggle themselves into Darklonia. And they're not being ashamed about it. They're making a scene. They're being very loud. And the waiters kind of catch themselves, and they said, these obnoxious Americans are inquiring about the S word, the word smuggling. And so they're going to kill them just because, they don't trust people. And that's when all the Joes pull out all of their heavy weaponry and point them right back at the waiters in a great little flip round them out move. I dig this issue. I dig the aspect of having these guys they're just on their mission. We don't get told it. It's a reveal. They've already been planning this. We're just catching up mid-mission. It's great.
Yo, Joe!
And at the border, Hawk is still trying to get information on this border patrol. And we learn that there's an automated system. It's got radar and it's got infrared. And whenever an alarm goes off, that's, the entire army. He says the entire army responds. And Hawk replies, I wouldn't commit all of your forces. Don't send everybody when an alarm goes off. But sure enough, the alarm does go off, and a couple Maulers show up. And it's nothing to worry about. It was just a simple stun. A Darklonian stun had wandered too close to one of the no man's land borders. So this is showing us in action how this early warning system is supposed to behave, right? And that's storytelling wise is kind of that's a really good, strong 101 way to show you when this happens, this is supposed to be the expected reaction, because later on in the story, we're going to subvert that and have something else happen.
Yo, Joe!
So now we've got a fast-moving aircraft that's approaching as well. And it's a Conquest X-30. Skidmark says the Pentagon sold dozens of them to a friendly country that has since gone underground, or has since undergone a coup. And then that country is selling those conquests to anybody. So Darklonia bought some conquests. So basically the Joes, this is like the start of the armor wars for G.I. Joe, like the Iron Man armor wars, where his armor tech got on the black market. So everyone was using it to fight Iron Man, using his own technology. And someone asks, it's probably Roadblock, says, how come everyone on our side is always so ultra skeevy? He says, you choose your enemies, friends and relations you're stuck with. He says, that pilot sure has a shiny helmet.
Yo, Joe!
And we see it's because that pilot is Destro. And he's flying close to the border to kind of get a feel for what they can spot and, kind of like how their border works. And everyone is trying to figure out how the smugglers are getting across. What secrets are they using? And here comes Mindbender. He walks in the room with a super hyped up paint gun. Now the art on this is where it's getting very Sammonsy. It's getting very, and Sammons is he's very cartoony, like when he needs to be, like he's kind of like exaggerated postures. And this is where I get that Kirby feel from him. Pages like this, where there's a strong like structural base to the character, but then the rest is kind of representational, thin lines, but bold lines, very. So this Mindbender looks like he'd be welcome in a in like Darkseid's throne room. That's where I'm coming at with this. And I love that because he's got this big bulky backpack on. This is the pythonizing weapon he's wearing. He's then not wearing his cape, which then just makes the fact that he's shirtless just all the more apparent.
Yo, Joe!
Meanwhile, that night at the border, we get our Camaro pulling up to the border, and it's the Joes with those two waiters. These poor waiters. Like, yeah, I guess they did try to murder some, quote, innocent civilians, but, they could also just be waiters who don't like Americans, and they're getting roped into this. But they're not being very helpful. So Flint says, take off your mask, Snake Eyes, and let them see who they're dealing with. And in a lovely bit of staging, the camera flips and we're seeing Flint and Scarlet. Scarlet's riding in the middle, in that middle seat in the front. And there's no seat, but in the middle of the front of the car. And they are both staring dead ahead, and they don't have looks of satisfaction on their face. They don't have looks of disgust. Like, they're stone-faced because they know what Snake Eyes looks like underneath the mask. Behind them, we see the horrified look on these two dudes' face. Also, the coloring is nice, too, because Flint and Jay are in the light. Those other guys are in the shadow. It's all bracketed by the red of the roof of the Camaro. And then the camera comes outside, and the car's sitting still. Well, it actually seems to be moving a little bit, but it's just isolated on this page, and there's just these small little lines of excitement over the heads of the two dudes that just saw Snake Eyes' face, and now are very, very, very interested in helping the Joe team.
Yo, Joe!
And the guy says, "Follow me. I'll show you how to get through the border." And Flint is expecting a tunnel, thermal baffles, radar reflective paint, and it turns out you knock on the door of the guy that's running the equipment, and you bribe him. You bribe Wolfgang, and the system goes off for 10 minutes. What a fantastic solution, because both sides are expecting these super ultra high tech ways to get across the border. They even Pythonize everything in order to get across the border, and all they did was bribe Wolfgang to get across the border. It's great. And the other side of the border now all these vehicles are Pythonized. So luckily they didn't show us them getting just hosed down and painted, because I feel like that's a process that works in a cartoon to kind of show stuff being painted on a machine, and all of a sudden it's magical. And to have it in a comic feels really comic-y. So I like that we don't have to see it. So we're just seeing the after effect. And so a whole bunch of Cobra stuns. and vipers, all pythonized, and they all look, they're drawn to look like their toy. And man, that Darklon mask is really, really weird. Also, what's weird is that his eyes are so big and so like, it's just, I've never seen the Darklon mask drawn the same way twice. It's just so peculiar. It's so peculiar. So they're testing out the pythonization. So they're driving over the border, and there's no alarms going off. But we, as the reader, we might also think that but we don't know that this works, actually, because we know that that dude just also turned off the border. So is it the pythonization process, or is it the fact that Wolfgang turned off the border? That's what I really like about this issue. I don't know for sure. And we get some of the grunts, some of the grunt vipers kind of complaining about it. This is great because it's giving personality to these vipers, which typically, Cobra Soldiers, Vipers, etc., they usually don't have a lot of personality. And I like what Larry does with them in these bottom two panels.
Yo, Joe!
And as they're crossing the border, here comes the Camaro also crossing the border, which is the look on Flint and Scarlett's face as they drive by, because they didn't realize they were going to be driving through a platoon of Cobras. They're just literally smiling and waving and keep driving. Now Cobra / Darklon, they assume that these guys are smugglers, right? And then they also assume that that's how the smugglers do it, because the shape of the Camaro, like it's an aerodynamic Camaro. That's how they get through. So it's a lot of people accomplishing their tasks that they want to accomplish it, but without really understanding how they're doing it.
Yo, Joe!
Here we get a little 2-page spread of Tales of the Spinjas. You guys remember the spinning ninjas? It was like a ripcord where there were tops. It was some toys, and then you put them in a battle arena, and you launch them into the arena and watch them battle to the finish. You collect them all. The Spinjas game from Parker Brothers. Did anyone here ever have Spinjas? The basic set includes 2 Spinjas, 2 power winders, and 1 arena. Additional Spinjas sold separately. How did you know who won? Was there a thing on the Spinja that like popped up, like a Rock'em Sock'em robot where the head would pop up? Is there something on the Spinja that would let you know you won the battle, or was it simply the last Spinja standing? I need to know this. Did anyone play Spinjas? So on this page, the next story page, once the Camaro kind of gets out of sight for them, they do a quick 180. So they realize they have to turn around and follow Cobra, because now that means Cobra is leaving Darklonia and going into Waklukland, and they were going from Waklukland into Darklonia. So they realize that's more important, because the Cobra must have a way of defeating the system. And that's when the two waiters are like, "Let us out, just whatever, just please. You guys are going to get us all killed, so please just let us go." Now, the Cobras think that the pythonization works perfectly, and it genuinely might. But they've deeply penetrated Waklukland, and so now Darklon is excited because he's going to sell this process and just crappy Cobra ornaments to the general.
Yo, Joe!
Meanwhile, Duke and Roadblock and Skidmark, they're actually in Wolfgang's little hideout, and Roadblock notices that Wolfgang is counting a whole fresh stack of cash, and they realize that Wolfgang turned he turned it off. So as soon as they turn it back on, they do immediately one strange blip, and there's nothing strange about that blip. It's a Camaro. I love this. I love this page. I love the pacing of this page. If you're looking at it, you got the bottom of the panel. Roadblock has a great outline. There's good suspense. They turn it on. You think the strange blip is all these pythonized things, because now this is where we're going to learn if pythonization works. The one dude, the general dude, says an extremely strange shaped blip is moving. Roadblock says nothing strange shape about that blip, sir. ... And he punchlines this whole page with "It's a Camaro." That's a great outline. That word balloon is in the wrong place. "It's a Camaro" needs to be on the far right side of this balloon, and it should carry us into the next page, because it's a punchline. The way they have it sitting, it's sitting in the lower left of the page underneath Roadblock, because he's the one saying it. And I guess it makes it a little awkward to put the tail of the word balloon, to kind of stretch across the page to hit Roadblock. But man, what a great out that would be on that page if it's a Camaro, would be on the right side.
Yo, Joe!
And it jumps right into the action. Now, this was a little jarring for me, to be frank, because all of a sudden those Joes are under attack. It's a pretty quick jump, especially because and I get, like, they were saying that they really weren't seeing any of the pythons on radar, but then we get to this next page and it's just a regular size, like 1/3 panel, or 1/6 of the page panel, where it says it's just, there's things blowing up, like there's just action happening. There's no like initiation of the battle or charge or revealing of Cobra being right there on him. So it's a little jarring in that regard, but the action's going, and so they jump out. They jump into the what did we say they were driving around in, the Desert Fox? Yeah. So they jump into the Desert Fox and they take off, and Baroness gets in the mix. She sees the Hawks with the rest of the G.I. Joe team, and they're all fleeing. Now, again, I didn't realize that Cobra was actually there to attack. Oh, no, I guess that is a surprise to them. Yeah, because that's a surprise that she sees that he's with Hawk of the G.I. Joe team.
Yo, Joe!
So, Python Patrol continuing apace. Baroness now realizes we can't let him get away. They have the opportunity to take out some of G.I. Joe's high command. They load up these asps and stuns, these pythonized asps, pythonized stuns, and they go chasing off after the Desert Fox. And now it's a little bit of a chase. Vehicles are a little cartoony. That's the salmon style. They look good, and they have a lot of life to them. Like they're bounding off the ground. They're not. They're in the air, like a cartoon, like a cartoon vehicle would.
Yo, Joe!
Now we talk about Skidmark is taking them to somewhere that Hawk said the spot we visited this afternoon. So for us, it's going to be a bit of a reveal, and but for them, Skidmark seems to know exactly where he's taking them. And as Cobra and the Pythons turn the corner,
Yo, Joe!
we get a payoff to what General Hawk was talking about earlier. There's 3 maulers and a slam, and it's a trap. Now, this goes back to what Hawk said earlier about not sending out your entire brigade all at once. So that was pretty cool. And what Hawk says, this is a graphic example of the wisdom inherent in maintaining a reserve element and never committing all of your forces to a dedicated task. And the general says, is that a fancy way of saying I told you so? You got it. I thought so. And they take care of these pythonized stuns. Darklon's very happy that he hasn't actually paid for any of this yet.
Yo, Joe!
However, we still have Destro, and he is flying an X-30. And it is a pythonized X-30, and Destro takes care of those maulers. So now the tanks are destroyed. The slams are engaging the X-30. They actually hit it a little bit, sends him back to Darklon. So both sides are taking heat. It's not a resounding victory on anyone's side.
Yo, Joe!
And let's see, Baroness, Commander, and Mindbender, they have to run all the way back to the border because Darklon had left them. This is great. So Darklon is driving with no lights on because he says if he turns the lights on, the Wuk-Luk-landers, they'll be able to see them, and he doesn't want to be seen. And then they get T-boned by a Camaro. And his response is, I haven't liked those things since they changed the front grille. I'm not much of a car guy, but I don't know when that was. But Camaros are always pretty awesome. Just ask Bumblebee.
Yo, Joe!
Here we got a comic book convention schedule. In April of '89, there's a convention in Westbury, New York, Mount Laurel, New Jersey, Springfield, New Jersey, Paramus, New Jersey, New York, the Roosevelt Hotel, Philly, Stamford, Connecticut, Worcester, Mass., Boston, Mass. This is a gigantic Boston circuit. It's a big, and this is sharing a half page. Let's see. This ad is sponsored by the Great Eastern Conventions. out of Ringo's New Jersey. So as Darklon was fleeing his pythonized, now T-boned stun, he gets jumped by Snake Eyes. And Snake Eyes is wearing his plastic mask, his rubber mask, rather. And Snake Eyes just kind of dives and punches him out. And he gets an at-ease order because the General Walklukland says he was impressed by their ability to evade radar and thermal detectors. So now they're going to buy the stuff from Darklon. So they're going to, I don't understand the politics, man, that they keep a strong border, but then they buy the arms from their neighbor. In a nice bit of politicking, Flint says, I keep forgetting that the type of people who want to run things never changes. Because now those dudes are kissing the butt of Darklon.
Yo, Joe!
And the next day in Darklon Castle, Darklon and Destro are toasting. Aren't they? They're cousins, if I recall. They're toasting the success of the Pythonized vehicles. Although Baroness, Commander, and Mindbender are still trying to get across the border. And this is where they run into, they're talking to the same waiters that showed the Joes how to smuggle it across. And in order to help them, they ask those three, there's only one qualification. You don't happen to have a Camaro, do you? Because they don't want to get caught up in a Camaro like they did with the Joes. That's an exciting, fun, geopolitical issue of G.I. Joe. And now before we wrap up, we're going to go over to Post Box and Pit, guys, because as teased, we've got some movement and some opinions on the Lone Wolf saga. We've got some letters here. We've got a letter from Kenny Concepcion out of Merrick, New York. Hey, Kenny. And then we've got one from John Thunderbolt Alexander out of College Station, Texas. And he says he did a little research for us. And he was 13 years old at the time. So he had a lot of time in his hands. So John, if you're out there listening, God bless you. He says, about these, quote, lone wolf incidents. The way you write it sounds like everyone and his brother writes in calling themselves lone wolf. I thought it'd be interesting to research this. Since issue 1 to 82, there have been 6 lone wolves. The very first in 65 had no address. So how are we to know who the real lone wolf is? Is it possible that Lone Wolf wrote back in 71, 74, 80, 81, and 82? Is it possible that I can receive a no? So he's asking for a no prize. Come on. Although he's doing the homework, though. If Lone Wolf the original ever reads this letter or sees it in the comic, please write so that we know exactly who he is. Those others who call themselves Lone Wolf should try to think of something original, like others in the past. Hopefully, in the near future, Larry and the gang will make a new character named Lone Wolf, so no one else can call themselves that anymore. God bless you, John Thunderbolt. How did a 13-year-old kid get a nickname John Thunderbolt Alexander? I want the answer to that mystery. And there's an email here, or there's a letter here from Joe Dobrovich out of Amarillo, Texas. And Joe takes a stance that I dislike. I don't like this person in life. The person where a lot of people are having fun with something and there's an ongoing saga or debate or whatever. And someone like Joe Dobrovich has to step in and just pour water on all the hijinks. And he writes in to say, he says a bunch of other stuff, and he says, one last thing I want to mention before I close up this letter. I'm sure everyone is aware of those people writing in, arguing over who is the real lone wolf. Well, I have to say, who cares who the lone wolf is? I mean, this is coming up more than no prizes, which I am very glad Larry, or whoever it was, took action and did something about the problem. Why don't you guys, Jeff Lakazi of West Cherry Lompoc and the Lone Wolf of North Lilac and Danny Edelman and blah, 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 and the first guy claiming to be the Lone Wolf, give it a break. You all can call yourselves the Lone Wolf if you want, but don't make a big deal out of it. Yes, I know I'm making a big deal about it, but somebody has to do something about it. Well, I've said enough. Until Zap learns to ride a bike without falling off, make mine marvel. Joe Dobrovich, who asked you to referee? What if the rest of us are having fun with Lone Wolf? What if we want to get to the bottom of who really is the Lone Wolf, and does the Lone Wolf have any friends with whom he shares his comic book collection with? I'm calling out Joe Dobrovich. Let people have their fun. Don't be that guy. Oh my gosh. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. This was a lot of fun. The Python Patrol, Pythonizing is in the mix. Darklon is in the mix. Next week, we'll get issue 89 in the mix. I love it. Thank you for listening. And now you, Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.